we gather in this place at this time so that together we can walk the Lenten road to Easter. It's good to greet you this morning, and on behalf of the congregation to extend a special welcome to those of you who are visiting. As I always say, we're very happy that you're here. We certainly hope that you enjoy the service, that it's meaningful to you, and that you will come and worship with us again. As is also always the case, all of the programs that the chapel sponsors are open to the entire community, and we invite you to participate in any of them that are of interest to you. This morning, something special, because once a year I do a question and answer sermon. What that means is you have in your bulletins a piece of paper, blank piece of paper with some little instructions on top. The questions you ask are going to determine what happens with the sermon today. So any questions that you have on any topic whatsoever, please print them on that sheet of paper, and please do that now. We've got a full morning ahead in terms of our service schedule. Please print them, and don't fold the sheet, because if you fold it, I have to unfold it, and that just takes time. So if you'll just write down your questions, print them, and as you do that now while I continue with the announcements, and then we'll pass them to the center aisle, and I'll have one of the ushers come down and collect them and give them to me. So start doing that now while I go over some of the announcements with some special information for you. I do have tickets to the Shrine Circus. The information is in your bulletin. If you want one of those tickets, or one or more of those tickets, it doesn't matter to me. I've got 15 tickets, and if you want any of them, please see me at the door at the end of the service, or call during the week, and I'll be glad to let you have them. Starlight Majesty Luncheon Cruise is going to be next Sunday. I think we already have over 60 people who have signed up. We are going to have the whole bottom deck, so it's going to be a wonderful experience. $30 is a cut-rate bargain price, and if you're at all interested, you can purchase tickets in the Friendship Foyer after the service. Deadline will be tomorrow morning. You can get them through the office tomorrow morning. That will be the deadline, because we have to let the boat know how many are going to be coming. Beach walk photos are available in the Friendship Foyer following the service, so we invite you to go and take a look at them. As you know, Tom Jones passed away a little over a week ago, and that service is going to be next Saturday at 4 o'clock. The family has asked that for those who are interested, in lieu of flowers, donations can be made to the National Kidney Foundation, so we are glad to pass that information on to you. Trash and Treasure Sale in the Chapel Hall will also be next Saturday. That's going to be from, I believe it's from 10 to 2. Yeah, that information is there also. If you want to have a table, they're $10. You can sell your own stuff. If you simply have stuff that's sellable and you want to get rid of, you can donate it to the church, and the church will have a table, and then obviously whatever proceeds come from that would be the church's. If you have your own table, whatever you have is yours. So be aware of that also. Lots of educational programs, including the one on forgiveness. Tentative date is set for February 21st. Please read about the educational opportunities that are available there. And following the service today in Friendship Foyer, Tammy Parnan will be in the Friendship Foyer to help you put the Chapel by the Sea app on your cell phones, so that then you can punch that button anytime, and you'll be able to find out what's going on here at the church. If you've written out your questions, or if you're still in the process, please do that as quickly as you can. Pass it to the center aisle, and I'll ask our ushers to come down and pick them up and give them to me. So if you will do that right now, and then we've got a special announcement, a very special announcement, as soon as we're done with that. Any up here? You want to play a little traveling music? You think deep thoughts. If you had lunch plans, change them to dinner. We should be in good shape. And I'll now ask Chris Brown, our president, to come on up, and he's got some things he wants to share with you. So this is very important, so please listen very carefully.
Is this working? All right, good morning, everybody. So as he mentioned, I am your newly elected president of your board here at Chapel by the Sea. And before we get too much further, if you weren't here for the annual meeting, there's a number of new members to the board. So if I could just ask the current board, could you please stand briefly this morning? If you're on the current board, please stand. All right, thank you very much. I'd like to acknowledge them for their contributions as well, so thank you for that. So I did ask for a few minutes this morning for you because, you know, for many years now we've been coming to Chapel by the Sea. And I, like many of you, showed up to church on Sundays, walked in the beautiful stained glass doors in the back, was greeted, handed a bulletin, came in, sat down. Lights were on, air conditioning is usually working, right? Enjoyed some of the best music anywhere in any church, would you agree, in Pinellas County, period. You know, and the offertory trays come around and we make our contributions, and then when it's all said and done, every now and then we get a good sermon, right? And then we leave, right? And then we leave and we come back the following week and we do it all over again. And I think for me, I assumed everything was great. I mean, why wouldn't we think anything is different? Everything is just great. And then I joined the board a little over a year ago. And I remember that first board meeting like it was yesterday because I started looking at some things like the financials of our church. And I have to tell you, I was shocked and a little bit upset in that, you know, I will tell you straight up, everybody, that I don't like going to church and getting browbeaten for money. Okay, nobody in this church wants to do that. But let me tell you something else I don't like. I don't like being kept in the dark. And I'd rather have somebody talk straight with me than kind of not let me know all the facts that are really going on. Do you all agree? So here's what I need you to know, and I felt that you deserve to hear this straight up. Our church operates at a loss every year. And as those offertory trays come around, the truth is that is the primary source of income for our church to be able to do what we do. And my vision for our church is to not just be here for us, but for my kids and my kids' kids. And my vision also is this church do more than just have a service on Sunday mornings. I'd like to know that we're making an impact on the rest of the community around us. Would you agree with that? I have to tell you, in order for us to do that, the truth is we have got to look at two things, in my opinion. One, we've got to look at getting more revenue into our church. And that's going to be through a number of different sources. And I need everyone in this room to understand that when those offertory trays come around, it absolutely matters. Okay? It absolutely matters. And for those of you that are there and you say, well, I'm doing whatever I possibly can, let me look at you in the eyes and tell you thank you, because we sincerely appreciate it. However, if you're out there and you're saying, well, I'm just doing what I've always done. And by the way, I could do more, but I didn't know the church needed more. Then I'm speaking to you. All right? Because as those trays come around, I just need you to understand that we need your help. Okay? Now, I'm not trying to scare you. Yes, we're going to be open next Sunday and the following Sunday. All right? But again, I'm looking long term. If we don't take some decisive action soon, it won't be here. There might be a day where those doors can't open, and that's the honest truth. I need you all to hear that, okay? I'll leave you with this. You know, transition now from this conversation briefly to the rest of the things I want to start doing. You know, I want to start being more transparent with you. We're going to change the bulletin a little bit, and we're going to start to be very open about the expenses and things. And I want to tell you that there's already been dramatic steps with the board to reduce expenses every way we can, and that those initiatives won't stop. We're going to continue to do that. So know that your money is not going to be going to get, it's not getting wasted, okay? Know that we're doing that for you, all right? And the other thing you can do if you're sitting here saying, well, no, I can't really contribute too much more and all that, and I get that, then you know what you could do? Raise your hand if you've got a seat next to you that's open. Look at all the hands. We can still get more people in here, so I'm going to ask you, bring a friend. You know, somebody invited us to come over once, and we came in, and my wife and I were kind of looking at that time for a change, and this place felt like home. I love it. And I think that your friends will feel the same way. And so we encourage you, ask your friends to come out, because let me tell you, when they do hear the message that's delivered from this pulpit every Sunday, which is why we're here, and they hear this music, why wouldn't you come back? Would you agree? All right. So as those trays come around, not just today, but in coming weeks, I am legitimately asking you, I'm letting you know now, it's needed. All right? We need your support. We need your help so that we can do the things that we want to do. All right, let me transition very briefly. You know, I was in the Army for years. After I graduated from Clearwater High School, I know there's at least another Clearwater grad in here somewhere over here. Where's my Clearwater High graduates? Only one? Come on. All right, there's another one back there. I was in the Army for a bunch of years, and after the Army, I went into financial services and started helping people doing investing. It was really funny because people always came up to me and said, look, Chris, when they're in their working years, all they want to know is, how do I get to retirement? Help me so I can retire someday. And then once they get to retirement, they ask me, well, now make sure I don't outlive my money. And then the third question that comes up is, okay, well, someday I'm going to pass away. I want to make sure that all the stuff that we've accumulated goes to where I want it. Y'all feel the same way? So we talked with John Duran. Anybody know John Duran? John, will you stand up from here, please? I want to show you. This guy, he's a unicorn, okay? Let me tell you why John's a unicorn. He's an attorney that is willing to donate his time, okay? He's a CPA and attorney, and I asked him, I said, I think we can do more because I want to start doing more for you. So it's not just about what you can do for us, but we're going to start doing more for you. We're going to start offering more educational programs of things that I think will mean something to you. And our first one is this afternoon that we advertised a couple of weeks ago, and that's our estate planning conversation. We're not going to be here all day, but it's just going to give you an opportunity to ask questions to somebody who knows what he's doing and can help address some of those questions and things like what is going to happen to my stuff after I'm gone and things like that. So I encourage you, if you haven't already registered, we are going to do so right after service today, and you're welcome to join us, and then keep a lookout for things going forward. All right? With that, I'm going to let us get on with our service this morning. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to serving you on your board, and we're going to be doing a lot more things to be more transparent and communicate with you what's going on. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
I invite you to responsively read, after I read the leaders' part, our invitation to celebration found in your bulletin. Once again, we have come to this place, which we call the house of the Lord. We have come to worship our host and dedicate our lives to his will and way. This is a time when we gather in community for prayer and praise. This is a time when we look to the future and consider what our discipleship can and should mean. Easter is such a short time away. So we look to the cross, and beyond that, the empty tomb. Please join me in unison as we call upon God. Prepare us, O God, for what lies ahead. You cannot know the future, but our faith teaches us that we will not face it alone. Your promise is that you will always be with us, perhaps most obviously in those who love and support us. Help us reach a realization that our common kinship with all of humanity is more than some pleasant-sounding theory. It is the truth. And as we realize that it is the truth, grant us the strength and courage to live lives of real brotherhood. Enable us to emulate the Christ, who we have found in Jesus, to whatever degree possible, and put the meaning and message of Easter into our hearts so they can be implemented in our world. So we pray, ending with his words. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Maria, gratia plena, Maria, gratia plena, Ave, Ave Dominus, Dominus tecum. Benedicta tui mulieribus, et benedictus, et benedictus fructus ventris, ventris tui, Iesus. Ave Maria, nostrae in hora mortis nostrae. Ave Maria.
Chairman Brown has made known the needs of the church financially, and so it is an opportunity now to us to respond. In gratitude for the many gifts we have received, and in commitment to this church, let us be generous in our morning offering.
God of grace and God of glory, be with us as we worship together in this place at this time. But help us to realize that this is just a place where hopefully we uniquely find you as we find you, especially in one another. And that if the church is to really be the church, we must take it with us as we go into the world. A world which is so often frightening, especially now when there seems to be so much violence, so much hatred, so much hurting of people by people, that it's so often so hard to understand. And at a time when people claim to be religious and in tune in relationship with you, and they act so antithetically to the way we believe you want us to act. Help us to put aside some of our sectarian differences and come together as your family, as your children. Indeed, recognizing that on a very unique way, we are brothers and sisters. We are all part of the same human family. As we look around us and see so much need, help us to meet that need with the blessings and the resources that we possess and have been given because we have been blessed. Where there is hunger, where there is homelessness, where there is hurt, where there is violence. Help us to do what we can to change those situations, even as we change our world, beginning by changing ourselves. Make us aware of the needs in our own community, our own families, because that is where we can start. And now be with us as we come to you in the quietness of the moment with our own personal thoughts and concerns. Amen. One of the books of the Bible, the Old Testament, that is listed as wisdom literature. What it basically consists of is wisdom. It consists primarily of sayings which are to be of help to people as they live their lives. Most of Proverbs is ascribed to Solomon. That probably isn't true. It's a little bit like celebrities writing books with the help of a ghostwriter who does most of the work, and they get the credit because they've got name recognition. Nonetheless, Proverbs does consist of passages which are to be of help to us as we live our lives. I'd like to read to you Proverbs 15 this morning. A soft answer turns away wrath, and a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise dispenses knowledge, but the mouths of fools pour out folly. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. A gentle tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit. A fool despises a parent's instruction, but the one who heeds admonition is prudent. In the house of the righteous there is much treasure, but trouble befalls the income of the wicked. The lips of the wise spread knowledge, not so the minds of fools. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. The way of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but he loves the one who pursues righteousness. There is severe discipline for one who forsakes the way, but one who hates a rebuke will die. Sheol and Abaddon lie open before the Lord. How much more human hearts? Scoffers do not like to be rebuked. They will not go to the wise. A glad heart makes a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of heart the spirit is broken. The mind of one who is understanding seeks knowledge, but the mouths of fools feed on folly. All the days of the poor are hard, but a cheerful heart has a continual feast. Better is a little with fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble with it. Better is a dinner of vegetables where love is than a fatted ox and hatred with it. Those who are hot-tempered stir up strife, but those who are slow to anger calm contention. The way of the lazy is overgrown with thorns, but the path of the upright is a level highway. A wise child makes a glad father, but the foolish despise their mothers. Folly is a joy to one who has no sense, but a person of understanding walks straight ahead. Without counsel, plans go wrong, but with many advisers they succeed. To make an apt answer is a joy to anyone, and a word in season, how good it is. For the wise, the path of life leads upward, in order to avoid Sheol below. The Lord tears down the house of the proud, but maintains the widow's boundaries. Evil plans are an abomination to the Lord, but gracious words are pure. Those who are greedy for unjust gain make trouble for their households, but those who hate bribes will live. The mind of the righteous ponders how to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours out evil. The Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous. The light of the eyes rejoices the heart, and good news refreshes the body. The ear that heeds wholesome admonition will lodge among the wise. Those who ignore instruction despise themselves, but those who heed admonition gain understanding. The fear of the Lord is instruction in wisdom, and humility goes before honor. May these words be read before every political debate still to come. Well, you've done it again. Look at the numbers here I've got. I'm consistently amazed because I don't know, I've done this now, well, I've done it now for 34 years here, and I did it before that in Ohio, and every year I think, gosh, we're going to run out of questions sooner or later, but we never do. Some of them tend to be repeats, but there's always new stuff, and of course, on a variety of different topics, as you can imagine, some of them will be relating to the presidential election coming up, so that'll get interesting. We are going to be going over, very rarely does our church service last more than an hour. Usually it's about 50 or 55 minutes. So I do want to get to as many of these as I can this morning. The ones I can't do this morning, I'm going to stick aside because I enjoy the spontaneity, and I will be handling them next week. So these are they're not in any special order. I didn't have time to do that. I didn't want to do that. So if I don't get to your question, I apologize. This is not a carrot on a stick before your nose to make sure you come back next week to hear the answer. But if it works, it works. It's okay with me. For those of you who are worried about the time and parked across the street, those meters don't go into effect till 12:30. So we should be in pretty good shape here. So let me just read the question and then give you whatever answer I can. Obviously, there's no time to make a full explanation. These will be very short. Some of this would be sermon material, but we don't have time for that this morning. And I speak fast anyway, so you're going to have to make sure you listen with New Jersey-type ears this morning, because that's the way you're going to hear the answers, I'll tell you now. Do you think that all go to heaven on different elevators, or is it only through Christ? Well, first of all, we've got to recognize that Christ and Jesus are not necessarily the same. We see Christ in Jesus. So it was Jesus who died on a cross, but Christ is the Word. The Word always was, always will be. So who's to say that Christ has not appeared in other times, in other places, in other personalities? We as Christians seek to emulate Jesus Christ because that's where we find God most fully manifested. The universes, if you will, are so big, and if God really created all of this and rules all of this, then God is far bigger than this one little speck called Earth, and certainly bigger than this one little group of people on this speck called Earth called Christians. It would seem to me that it's up to God which elevators go to him ultimately, if you will, if you want to use the image of the elevator. It's up to God. That's not up to us. All we can do is try to seek God in our own lives, how God operates in our lives, to follow what we believe to be God's will for our lives, and the rest is up to God. And we certainly shouldn't be overly judgmental of those who see things differently or relate to God in different ways. It seems to me that God is bigger than all of our little tiny faith communities. God is God, and it's up to God to determine what those relationships ought to be. So that's a long way of saying yes. I think that there are a variety of different roads that lead to God. Our way is a Christian path. And we can go on ad infinitum, Christ or Jesus' involvement in all of this, and Jesus' effectiveness, even for those who don't necessarily recognize Jesus as Christ. So, it's a very short answer, necessarily so, to a very complex question. But I think that there are many roads that lead to God, and God is the ultimate destination of all of those who seek to be with him, her, it. Was the Pope wrong on his Donald Trump statement? Your take on it? I get tired of politicians. I'm not talking now about Donald Trump. All politicians complaining when a religious leader says something religious which happens to impinge upon their particular political perspective. Politicians are responsible for politics. Religious leaders are responsible for religious statements. If the Pope says something about building bridges, that is a religious statement, because he's saying, according to the Bible, according to Jesus, according to everything we claim to believe, that we ought to be trying to reach out to our brothers and sisters and try to live together in peace. That doesn't always work. Yes, we have to protect ourselves nationally. Yes, we have to protect our own interests. I recognize all of that. But what the Pope is talking about is religion. What the politicians are talking about is the implementation of what they perceive to be morality, ethics, national interest, that kind of thing. So if Donald claiming to be Christian took offense at that, the Pope was not making a political statement. He was making a religious statement which impinges upon the political process. It's up to the politicians to determine what is most important to them, following the teachings of Jesus if they claim to be Christian, or following the dictates of national interest. That's up to the politicians. It's up to religious leaders to make religious statements. That's what the Pope was doing. I understand you... Oh, this one's smaller. I understand you once gave a sermon that on Easter morning that the person who was most surprised on Easter morning was Jesus. I love this idea. Could you paraphrase a few points? Thanks. Yeah. What I said was that on Easter Sunday morning, the most amazed person at the resurrection was Jesus. And the reason I said that was because Jesus, in his own faith and hope, believed that he would somehow be reunited with God after his death. But if Jesus had some kind of ironclad guarantees that on the third day he was going to rise from the dead, then his sacrifice on the cross would have been less important and less impacting than what it turned out to be. If you've got guarantees, well, okay, you put up with a little pain, and by golly, now you're raised to the right hand of God. But if there's no guarantee, and you're still willing to take that chance on faith, that is faith in its perfection. So that was why I said that about Jesus. He was willing to die for what he believed in without any guarantees what was going to happen after that. But he was willing anyway. Now that's the kind of faith which is perfect faith, if you will. And that's why I suggested that was my way of saying that he was surprised on Easter morning. My way of saying that in his faith, he did what he did regardless of what was going to happen later on. Why does prayer bring us such peace? Well, it brings us peace because, first of all, we are getting in tune with ourselves. We're getting in tune with our relationship with God. We pray in different ways. Sometimes it's feeling, sometimes it's verbal, sometimes it's simply meditation, and it's the thoughts that go through our minds. It brings, remember that one great saying of Jesus about, the log in your own eye and judging people with a speck in theirs. We ought to take that more seriously. Do I need to be concerned that the Pope is involved in politics? I already answered that one, I think. In these apparently hostile political times, doesn't it seem like the most mean-spirited are those professing to be Christian? Sometimes, but again, people are people, and that is unfortunate. The world would be a better place if everybody really lived their own faith to the greatest extent possible. And I mean that about all religions, because at the base of every religion, I know I'm getting a question later on which kind of touches on this, the base of every religion is love and caring. That is at the base. Now sometimes it goes astray, and that includes Christianity, Judaism, everything else. Sometimes our interpretations are less than they ought to be, but if we all tried to live our faith and we really manifested that faith as much as possible and implemented it, then a lot of mean-spiritedness would go away. It does seem like there's more and more mean-spiritedness in our world. What is your opinion of today's instant gratification and the direction this is leading society and the younger generation? Everything's happening faster now. And we want everything, and we want it yesterday. I do think that some of what's happening with some younger people is their parents' fault, in the sense that every parent tries to give his or her kids perhaps a better life than what they themselves had. But sometimes it goes too far. My own personal opinion is we got too many families where the tail is wagging the dog. The kids are running the show. That doesn't mean that the parents are always right, but it does mean that parents ought to be parents. Forget about being buddies with their children. Let their kids have their own buddies. Be their parents. And I think this instant gratification comes because some kids are given everything, so that when they get on their own, they expect to have everything. Again, that's a prejudicial opinion coming from somebody who is definitely a kid no longer. So, I'm going to do two more questions, and then we're going to have to end this. Do you think that our forefathers would have written, as is the Second Amendment, if they knew what the right to bear arms with what is available today? That's the tricky one. I own guns, okay? I am not anti-gun by any extent of the imagination. I personally don't see why anybody needs to have anything other than perhaps a revolver or a pistol or a shotgun or a rifle. I don't see why anybody needs a semi-automatic weapon, which was originally designed for the military or the police. I just don't see that. I do believe in background checks. I don't see that in any way impinges upon my right to bear arms. And I do remember from the Second Amendment just that little bit in there about for the purposes of forming a militia. That was put into the Constitution at a time when the United States did not have a standing army. So as in Switzerland, everybody was expected to bear arms if it was for the defense of the nation. That doesn't mean, that as far as I'm concerned, that there's anything good about going to carrying weapons in college campuses and where there are huge groups of people in malls and places like that. I do have a problem with that. I feel for the police. If there is a shooting someplace, now they got to come and everybody's got their guns out. Who are they going to shoot? How are they going to determine who the good guys are and the bad guys are? So that's kind of where I'd be coming from on that sort of thing, the Wild West. The one thing that I do find interesting, if our legislators who pass these laws really believe that everybody should be able to bear arms, every responsible citizen. How come they're not allowed at the political rallies or at the legislature meetings? If I can carry a gun on a campus or to a church, then I want to take it up to Tallahassee or to Washington and be able to take it into Congress. Okay? Can't do that. And you try getting into one of these political rallies with a gun and see what happens to you. Is a tattoo defacing the body considered a sin in God's eyes? I think that's such minutia. I don't think that God really cares one way or the other whether we have tattoos. I think some of the tattoos I see, though, I mean, people could run around naked and you'd think they were still clothed because they're totally covered with tattoos. So I mean, but that's their preference. That's their choice. It's going to be funny later on when some of that muscle tone sinks as they get older. And you've got these sagging maps of the North America that now look like the entire world. Drooping to their ankles, but that's a different issue. So, okay. Last question. Do you have a bucket list? If so, any hints as to what would be first to conquer? I'm not sure what would be first. I love to travel. I'd like to travel more. The world is a big place and life is short. And so long as I still have the ability, there are other places that I'd like to see. Also, I want to, just spend as much time as possible with friends and family. I don't know that that's a bucket list because I'm already doing that. And I'm also, my final and most important one is to grow a full head of hair. So that's the one I'm really working on, and it's coming along just fine. Okay? And I'm not at all worried about it. Finally, and this is a compliment to all of you, I just want to thank you for this lovely Lord's house. For a visitor like me, I don't see I can't read the last part, and for visiting folks. So if you're visiting with us and you find this to be a warm, friendly place and you like coming to the Chapel by the Sea, then we have accomplished one of our missions to the community, because we try to be warm and friendly, and hopefully you're getting greeted not just by the people standing at the door with the name tags, but everybody who is sitting around you in the pews. And another place to kind of get to meet people is in the Friendship Foyer at the end of the service for our Orange Juice Fellowship. And again, thank you for your patience, thank you for your questions, and we'll see what happens next week. as we go from this place, may it be with the influence and the impact of God all around us, so that we find him in those with whom we come in contact. May we look on all people as our brothers and sisters and do our part in the creation of a better, kinder, more loving world. And in our efforts, may the Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace, both now and forevermore. Amen.